All right, today we're going to talk about something that goes way beyond the usual compatibility scores you see everywhere. We're digging into a hidden key in Vedic astrology that gets right to the heart of what makes a relationship, really click. Have you ever looked at a couple or maybe even been in a relationship where everything looks perfect on paper? I mean, even the astrological charts give a super high score, but something just feels off? That spark, that magnetic pull, it just isn't there? Well, this explainer is all about why that happens.
So in Vedic matchmaking, almost everyone gets hung up on the Guna Milan score, that famous 36-point system. But, and this is the kicker, you can have a near-perfect score and still feel like you're living with a total stranger. A high number just doesn't promise real harmony.
So, what's the deal? What's the missing piece of this whole 36-point myth? Well, it's a factor that's working on a much, much deeper, more instinctual level that most people just completely miss.
Okay, so here's how you need to think about it. Guna Milan is great for the social match. It's looking at your mind, your soul, your destiny, all the big picture stuff. But Yoni Milan, that's the instinctual match. It's all about your raw chemistry, your biological programming. It's the difference between a good social handshake and that deep gut feeling of connection.
So what is this Yoni Milan thing anyway? Essentially, it's a system that assigns each of us an innate animal spirit. This is all based on your nakshatra, which is basically where the moon was hanging out in the sky when you were born. And this animal spirit, it's in charge of all that subconscious stuff, the physical attraction, the gut feelings, the things you can't quite put your finger on.
Okay, and this is where it gets super fascinating. This system lays out 14 different yoni types, and each one is represented by a specific animal. So let's take a look at a few of these inner animal spirits and see what they're all about.
Just take a look at some of these. You've got the super high-energy, independent horse, or maybe you're more like the dignified, steady elephant. Some people might have that intense, secretive vibe of the serpent, or maybe the loyalty of the dog or the dominance of the tiger. See if any of these feel a little bit like you on a deep, instinctual level.
Right, so here's the most important part. How do these different animal spirits actually get along? It's not just random. There's a whole scoring system. It goes from a perfect 4 points all the way down to a very, very problematic 0. Let's start at the top. A perfect 4 out of 4. This is the absolute jackpot. It's called a swabhava match, and it's when both of you have the same animal spirit. This means you're in perfect biological and sexual sync. The instinctual understanding is just off the charts.
Then you've got the middle ground, a 2 out of 4. This is a sama match between two neutral animals, and this is totally workable. It's just average. The compatibility is there, but it's not going to be effortless. You'll both have to consciously put in some work to really find your rhythm.
And then we get to the big one. A score of 0. Nada. This is what's known as a Mahavairi match, or great enemy. And trust me, it's called the danger zone for a very good reason. This is a fundamental, deep-seated clash of your most primal instincts.
So let's dive into this 0-point danger. What actually happens when these primal instincts clash? Because this isn't just some abstract idea. It has real, tangible effects on a relationship. What does this feel like in the real world? First up, biological friction. It's this weird, almost physical repulsion, like two magnets pushing each other away. There's just a bizarre lack of that magnetic pull. Then there's sudden aggression. You get these totally irrational outbursts, almost like a predator-prey dynamic is playing out under the surface. And long-term, it just leads to this constant energy drain. You just feel chronically tired and irritable around each other.
And this slide just perfectly illustrates the whole idea, right? These are the classic enemy pairs. I mean, think about it. A snake and a mongoose, a rat and a cat, an elephant and a lion. It just makes sense. These ancient biological rivalries are what play out subconsciously in the relationship.
Man, this quote just hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? The difference between a marriage that looks good on paper and a marriage that feels electric in person. That's it right there. That electricity, that's Yoni Milani, that's the whole game.
Okay, so if any of this is starting to sound a little too familiar, please don't freak out. It's so important to remember that this isn't a life sentence. Astrology just points out tendencies, and the good news is there are definitely ways to manage and even soothe this instinctual friction.
The remedies really boil down to 3 main areas you can work on. Spiritually, things like chanting can seriously help calm down those primal fight-or-flight instincts. Environmentally, you can use principles of Vastu, like using more earthy cones in your bedroom to create a more grounded, calm space. But honestly, the most important one is behavioral.
just consciously acknowledging your partner's inner animal with compassion and giving each other space when needed.
But you know, at the end of the day, the real fix here, it's a change in your perspective. The most powerful remedy isn't some complex ritual. It's simply understanding that some of your partner's reactions are literally hardwired into their being. And once you get that, you can move away from judgment and toward real compassion.
You can almost think of Yoni Milan as the pulse of your relationship, that deep underlying rhythm of instinct and attraction. So I guess the question I want to leave you with is, how strong is the pulse in your relationship? And now that you know a little more about what to look for, what can you do to understand it even better?